Interested in bushrangers? Have a look at this. Who's he? I bet you guessed it. Of course, it's Ben Hall. But that's not how you spell his name. Of course it's not. But it's how you might type his picture. And what does that mean? Well, look at this picture from a newspaper. Newspaper pictures are like this. If you look at them closely, they're actually made up of a lot of dots. And very small dots will give you light grey, very big dots will give you black, and medium-sized dots will give you a medium sort of grey. And the entire picture is composed of that. And because the symbols on a typewriter or a computer have different shades of grey, you can use them to assemble pictures, like this of a cat. It's a very obvious cat, but if you come in closely and look at what's made it up, you find it's all symbols. They're on a computer, but they're also on a typewriter as well. J's and S's and dollars and strokes and exclamation marks and all sorts of things. You can see that in the detail, but as you back off, you find that the whole thing looks a very effective sort of photograph of a cat. Well, that'd be pretty complex to try and do on your own, but you can get away with just 5 of those symbols which have different shades of grey, and they are these. Nothing at all on your typewriter will give you white. Dots will give you a pale grey. Capital I's will give you a medium sort of grey. Capital H's will give you a dark grey, and dollars will give you the closest thing you can get to a black on a typewriter. And just using those 5 is enough to assemble a picture. And in fact, if you use those, this is what sort of picture you get out of Ben Hall. Not terribly good, but you can see a likeness there. It's not terribly good because the picture's a bit small. In fact, a small picture is rather good to show you how you do this. Let's look at a very tiny picture of an ice cream cone. It's tiny for good reason. There are really 3 shades in that. There's white of the snow on the top, the black of the chocolate ice cream, and the grey of the cone. Well, how do you get it into the different grids? Get yourself some of this. It's fly wire, but it's that material fly wire. It's fiberglass. And it's very good because it won't scratch your book as metal stuff would. You can cut it, and once you have cut it, it still stays stable. It stays as a square grid. It doesn't go lopsided. Okay? You place that over a picture, and you'll see what happens. In fact, it grids the whole thing up. Now, taking the blue borders there, if you count across the top, there's 7 squares, and they're all white. So you could code that on as no printing at all. Next line is 2 white, 3 black, that'd be dollar signs, and then 2 white, nothing at all. Next one, 1 white, 5 black, and 1 white. The next line gets into the ice cream cone. 1 white, 5 grey, that'll be capital H, and 1 white again. And keep working like that. Punch them up on your typewriter when you've got a record, and you'll get this effect of an ice cream cone typed out as a picture. Not terribly convincing, but enough to show you how the thing works. Well, how does it work with Ben Hall? It's a bit more complex, and the easiest thing to do is really to grid up your fly screen. If you don't do this, you get terribly lost and you get strange sort of erratic blobs in your picture. Here's how you do it. Get a bit of that fly wire, put it down on a piece of paper, and with a felt pen that's going to mark it, just rule along one of those upright wires. That's your baseline for up and down. You see it makes quite a decent mark. Then again, do the same thing for one of the wires that goes across. And that's your top corner of the picture. Then count off every 5th wire. Going down, it'll look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and darken it in. And keep doing that all the way down the page. And going across, you'll find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and darken it in. And if you do that, you'll end up with a beautifully gridded piece of fly wire that's going to give you that effect. Can you see the grid on that? Very effective. Then you take your picture, and it might be Ben Hall, as we saw, plonk it over there, get it arranged, and whatever you do, don't let it move. Then it's a matter of getting pen and paper, and very painstakingly, counting across there and assessing the shade of grey in each one. It might be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, depending on whether you're in the background or his hair or his face. If you do that, you'll get a complete gridded record of him. I've used numbers here. 1 is the lightest and 5 is the darkest, and that's what Ben Hall looks like in that form. Turn the 1s to nothing, the 2s to dots, the 3s to I's, the 4s to H's, and the 5s to dollar signs, and you get that picture we saw of Ben Hall. Well, it's a small picture. We'd do better to work on a larger one because we get less detail and more effect. There's another very famous bushranger. Put the grid over him, work for hours or days if necessary, grid the whole thing up, type it out, and you get a typed picture of the most famous bushranger of all, Ned Kelly.
Curiosity.